Hey there, and welcome. Tonight, we're slipping gently into one of the oldest, quietest questions a mind can carry. A question that doesn't ask to be solved right away, just held. A question that has drifted through starlight, through silence, through every century we've ever known. Are we alone? This isn't a story of answers. It's a story of stillness, of possibility, of what happens when we look up at the night sky and feel that strange and familiar tug in our chest. The one that says, surely we can't be the only ones. Not in all this space. Not in all this time. So, before we begin, take a deep breath and let the day go. Let the questions come quietly now. Let the lights around you dim and the noise fade into something soft. And if you haven't already, I invite you to like and subscribe, only if this kind of gentle wondering is something you'd like to return to. And in the comments, maybe share where you're listening from. I love watching this quiet little constellation of listeners grow. Now, rest your head. Let your thoughts become distant satellites. Let your body be still beneath the gravity of the question, and let's begin. Not with fear, but with wonder. Chapter 1. Where is everybody? The stars are not in hiding. They've never been shy. Every night they blink into view above us, clear, bright, ancient. We've mapped them, named them, measured their distances, and now, more than ever before, we know just how many of them there are, and how many worlds they might hold. Our galaxy alone, the Milky Way, is home to more than 100 billion stars. And now we know, thanks to careful observation, that most of those stars have planets, maybe several. Some are giant gas worlds like Jupiter. Others are rocky, like Earth. Some are far too hot or far too cold. But in the quiet middle distance, just right, are what we call habitable zone planets. Worlds that, at least on paper, could cradle liquid water, could cradle life. And then we multiply that by every other galaxy. Billions of them, spinning silently in the dark. The numbers become dizzying. Trillions of planets, trillions of chances, trillions of little questions floating through space. So why then haven't we heard from anyone? This is the question that physicist Enrico Fermi asked over lunch one day in 1950, a question that now carries his name. The Fermi paradox, the contradiction between what the math tells us that intelligent life should be common and what we've actually found, nothing. No signals, no visits, no noise in the sky except the static of the stars. No signs of intelligence on distant worlds, just silence. A silence so vast and consistent, it has become its own mystery. Some have tried to answer it with optimism. Perhaps we're early. Perhaps life is still rare. We may be among the first to reach out. In that case, the silence is not ominous. It's just quiet. The calm before the conversation begins. Others believe civilizations come and go. They rise, they build, they burn, they fall. Maybe the gap between becoming intelligent and destroying oneself is very small. Maybe others were out there long ago, but they're gone now, lost to time, their messages scattered like dust. Or maybe the problem is us. Maybe we're not listening correctly. Maybe their messages come in waves we don't understand. Maybe they're out there, right now, whispering in a language made of light, or gravity, or something we haven't yet dreamed of. And still others wonder, what if they're watching, but staying silent, waiting to see what we become before reaching out? What if we're the ones being studied, like a tiny blue petri dish in the middle of space? It's possible, all of it. And that's what makes the Fermi paradox so haunting and so beautiful. It holds 1,000 answers, and none of them are proven. It's a mirror more than a map. A question that shows us what we value, what we fear, what we hope for, and maybe what we are. Tonight, as you drift into sleep, you don't need to solve it. Just imagine the stars above, each one a sun, each one with its own family of worlds. Somewhere, maybe, there is another version of you, staring into their own sky, asking the same thing. You are not strange for wondering. You are not alone in your wondering. And perhaps you are not alone at all. Sleep now. The universe is still listening. And somewhere out there, the silence hums. Chapter 2, The Great Filter. What if there's a wall between us and them? The stars are still there, unchanging, patient, ancient. They shine the way they always have, their light stretching across time just to touch us. We've looked up at them for thousands of years, wondering what's out there, who might be watching, who might be waiting. But still, nothing. And so, another idea emerges. Not an answer exactly, but a possibility. A soft, unsettling theory that has quietly followed the Fermi paradox. What if something is stopping life from making it this far? This idea is called the Great Filter. It suggests that somewhere along the path from simple molecules to thinking minds, there is a barrier. A filter so difficult to pass that almost no species makes it through. Maybe life starts often, but almost always ends before it becomes intelligent. Or maybe civilizations are common, but something always happens. Something that stops them from lasting, from spreading, from speaking across the stars. We don't know where the filter might be. That's part of the mystery. It could be behind us or ahead. If it's behind us, it means we've already passed the hard part. Maybe life is incredibly rare. Maybe Earth is a miracle. A perfect storm of timing and chemistry and luck. Maybe the leap from bacteria to complex life is so difficult, it almost never happens. In that case, we are rare, precious, survivors of the filter. But if the filter lies ahead, then the silence becomes something else. A warning, a hush before the storm. If most civilizations fall before they can reach the stars, then we may be next in line. Not because we are bad, but because intelligence brings risks. Power without wisdom, speed without foresight. Maybe civilizations burn out, not from malice, but from reaching too far, too fast. Nuclear weapons, environmental collapse, artificial intelligence. The tools we build can save us or unmake us. Maybe that's the pattern. Civilizations rise, they flourish, they listen, and then, like candles in the wind, they vanish. It's only a theory, a shadow, really. But it reminds us that survival is not guaranteed, that our place in the universe may be fragile, and that wisdom, not just curiosity, is what will carry us forward. But the filter is not a punishment. It is a call to pay attention, to care for what we've been given, to recognize that our ability to ask these questions, to wonder if we're alone, is part of what makes life precious. So maybe tonight, the silence is not empty. Maybe it's sacred. Maybe it's filled with all the civilizations that once were, each one with their own hopes, their own skies, their own stories. Maybe the silence is their echo, and maybe we are the next verse in that long cosmic song. Let that thought hold you now, not with fear, but with reverence. You are here, alive, thinking, wondering. That in itself is extraordinary. Sleep, gentle soul. You are part of something ancient, and the stars are still watching. Chapter 3, Listening in the Dark. How we've been searching for a voice. Even in the quiet, we listen. For over half a century, we've been pointing our ears to the sky, vast satellite dishes spread out across mountaintops and deserts, scanning the cosmos for a voice, a whisper, a pattern that says, we are not alone. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence, SETI, is one of the most patient scientific efforts in human history. It doesn't expect quick results. It listens for decades. It waits in the silence. It hopes. These telescopes tune in to radio waves, natural ones, like the sun gives off, and artificial ones, like the signals we ourselves send into space. And once in a while, something strange happens. A burst, a tone, a signal that doesn't belong to a star or a planet or a pulsar. Something that, just maybe, could be a message. There was one like that once, the WOW signal, detected in 1977. A 72-second burst from deep space that didn't match anything natural. It came from a fixed point in the sky. It had the shape and strength of a deliberate transmission. It never repeated. It has never been explained. Some believe it was a mistake. Others believe it was a hello. But even now, we keep listening. And we don't just wait. We send messages too. Songs, greetings, the sounds of Earth. We've attached golden records to spacecraft, engraved with music and pictures and maps, just in case someone finds them. Just in case someone out there knows how to listen back. It's like sending a letter into the ocean in a bottle you may never see again. But still, we send it. Not because we expect a reply, but because it's part of who we are. Because we want to be known. Because even a whisper sent into the void is a kind of hope. And maybe, right now, someone else is listening too. Someone on a planet we've never seen, wondering why the sky is so quiet. Wondering if anyone else has made it this far. The silence is not proof of absence. It's only proof of distance and time and the fragility of connection. But still, we listen. Tonight, you are part of that quiet search. Not with equipment, but with your breath, your thoughts, your wonder. You are here, thinking about others. Others who may never know your name, but who may be thinking about you too. Let that comfort you. Let that connect you. Let your body rest, and let your mind drift across the stars. Listening, not for answers, just for the beauty of asking. You are not alone in your wonder, and maybe that means you're not alone at all. Sleep now. The universe is still turning, and you are part of its quiet song. Chapter 4. A universe full of possibilities. If there are so many planets, where is life? Let's pause for a moment and think about just how big the universe really is. We often hear the numbers, 100 billion galaxies, each with 100 billion stars, each star with planets. But those numbers are so vast, so abstract, they lose their meaning almost as soon as we hear them. So instead, try to feel it. Let it spread out around you like a sea that never ends. Imagine standing still in the dark, and above you, no ceiling, no sky, just stars. Beyond those stars, more stars. Galaxies spiraling in silence, light echoing through time, entire solar systems being born while others quietly burn out. It's not just vast, it's overflowing. And in all of that, everywhere we look, we see planets. Thousands have already been confirmed by our telescopes. Thousands more are waiting to be named. Some of them are giants, bigger than Jupiter, with storms large enough to swallow Earth whole. Some are tiny, tumbling close to their stars like moths to a flame. But some are quiet, temperate, not too hot, not too cold, just the right distance for liquid water, just the right conditions for clouds and rainfall, for oceans and weather, for maybe, just maybe, life. We call them Earth-like, but we don't really know what that means yet, because Earth itself is full of surprises. Life thrives here in boiling vents on the seafloor, in the frozen crust of Antarctica, in acid lakes, in deep caves, in clouds. Life, it turns out, is persistent. It doesn't just survive in comfort. It reaches, it adapts, it finds a way. So if Earth is just one world, in one solar system, among billions, and if life is this determined, this creative, this strange, why wouldn't it have happened elsewhere? It's the question that haunts the silence, because statistically, it feels impossible that we're the only ones. The odds are too high, the cosmos too vast, and yet, so far, there is no proof of anyone else. Not a single confirmed signal. Not one clear trace of life beyond Earth. No bacteria on Mars. No fossils beneath the ice of Europa. No alien radio waves slipping through the sky. And so we wait, and wonder, and ask. Maybe life is common, but intelligence is rare. Maybe civilizations don't spread because the galaxy is too big, too old, too quiet. Maybe every planet is like a pearl, separate, precious, floating alone in a black ocean. Maybe they're out there, but so far away that their signals haven't reached us yet. Or maybe they came and went, rising in beauty, disappearing before we even stood upright. Or maybe we haven't looked long enough. Our species has only had radio for about 100 years. A whisper compared to the lifetime of a galaxy. We've only been searching seriously for a few decades. We've listened to a tiny fraction of the sky on a few narrow wavelengths for a blink in cosmic time. Imagine trying to hear a single bird call from another continent while the wind howls and the seas roar and your ears are still learning what to listen for. So maybe we haven't missed the message. Maybe we're just early. Maybe we're the first to speak. Or maybe we're the ones being listened to. That's the strange hope of the stars, that someone, somewhere, is asking the same questions. Not with fear, but with wonder. Not because they are lost, but because they are awake. You, lying here now, are part of that. A moment of stillness in a world that keeps turning. A breath in the middle of a story we don't yet understand. You are not small. You are made of the same atoms that burn in suns. You are the cosmos, thinking about itself. And maybe that's what life is. Not noise, not contact, but reflection. Consciousness waking up on a distant shore, asking into the dark, is anyone else awake too? Let that thought settle in your chest. Let it slow your breath. Let the sky above you stretch wide and soft. You don't need to know the answers. You only need to feel the question. Are we alone? Maybe not, but even if we are, this question, this night, this silence is still a kind of connection. Sleep now, traveler of stars. The sky is vast, and you are part of its light. Chapter 5. What counts as a message? Could they be speaking in a way we don't yet understand? We tend to think of communication in familiar shapes. Words, sound waves, digital signals, structured pulses of light. We imagine alien voices like our own, modulated, intentional, encoded in ways we know how to decode. But what if the message we're waiting for doesn't sound like a message at all? What if it's been playing all along, but in a language we haven't learned to hear? Close your eyes and imagine a planet. Not Earth, but somewhere far. A place with purple skies, slow-moving oceans, winds that hum across silver mountains. On that planet, a form of life evolves. Not human, not humanoid, but intelligent in a way that doesn't mirror us. Perhaps it doesn't speak in vibration, but in shifting magnetic fields. Perhaps it doesn't build machines, but changes its color to think. Perhaps its version of music is the subtle sway of electrical patterns we'd miss completely. Would we recognize it? Would we even know we'd found them? The truth is, every form of life on Earth communicates differently. Whales sing across oceans. Bees dance to tell directions. Trees share nutrients through root networks, responding to threats with chemical signals. These are messages, rich with meaning. But for centuries, we didn't understand them. And even now, we're only just beginning to listen. So what happens when we look outward, expecting others to shout into space the way we might? Maybe they are shouting, just not in a way we can hear. And maybe we aren't quiet either. Maybe our message has been broadcasting this whole time, without us even knowing. Our radio and television waves have been leaking into space for nearly a century, expanding outward at the speed of light. Faint, scattered, a ghost of sound wrapped in time. To anyone listening, our planet may already be a whisper, a strange murmur beneath the static, fragments of music, laughter, tragedy, celebration, war. The story of humanity, unintentional and unfiltered, cast out into the dark. But would they know what it meant? Would we? There's something both beautiful and bittersweet about that. The idea that we might have already introduced ourselves without knowing. That the story of who we are is floating among the stars, waiting to be heard, or already heard, and perhaps misunderstood entirely. And maybe they've replied. Maybe they've sent back signals of their own, shaped like gravity waves, or encoded in the flickering of pulsars, or stitched into patterns of cosmic rays. Maybe we've even seen them and filed them away as anomalies, never realizing what they meant. Because understanding requires more than detection. It requires knowing what to look for. It requires a shared frame. And in a universe this strange, how likely is that? Still, we keep trying. Not because we're certain, but because we're curious. Because curiosity is part of what makes us human. The desire to connect, to know, to feel less alone. It's what led us to build radios and rockets and golden records filled with greetings and Bach and laughter and whale songs and a map to our tiny world. It's what leads us to lie under the stars, wondering if someone else, somewhere, is doing the same. So maybe the message isn't a phrase or a signal. Maybe it's this moment, right now, of stillness, of longing, of wonder. A message written not in binary but in breath. You don't have to listen harder tonight. You don't have to understand. Just feel the quiet between your thoughts and know that it belongs to something bigger. That even your wondering is part of the universe's music. Sleep now, stargazer. You are not waiting. You are participating. And somewhere, maybe, something is listening back. Chapter 6. The Zoo Hypothesis. What if we're being watched and just don't know it? There's another idea, one that floats softly between science fiction and serious scientific theory. It's been whispered across decades, not because it offers proof, but because it offers a curious kind of possibility. It's called the Zoo Hypothesis, and it begins with a simple suggestion. What if we're not alone, but being deliberately left alone? Imagine the Earth not as a random, unremarkable speck in space, but as a protected reserve, a quiet exhibit, part of a larger galactic awareness we haven't yet seen. A species, intelligent and vast, watches from afar, not with cruelty or conquest in mind, but with distance, a gentle distance, the way we might observe animals in a sanctuary, respectfully, quietly, without interfering. Perhaps they've already mapped our world. Perhaps they're aware of us, our songs, our wars, our radios humming across space like drifting leaves. And perhaps, after listening, they made a choice to remain silent, to allow us to evolve without influence, to let us grow at our own pace, not out of neglect, but out of care. It's not as strange as it seems. After all, we already do something similar. We observe wildlife from hidden cameras or through glass walls, trying not to disturb the natural rhythm of things. We recognize that our presence changes behavior, changes outcome. So what if something far more advanced is doing the same, watching us without touching us, waiting? Not because we're unworthy, but because we're not ready. Maybe there's a rule we don't know about, a galactic agreement, a kind of cosmic quiet zone. Don't disturb developing civilizations. Let them become. Let them ask their own questions. Let them find their own truths. And when we're ready, when we stop destroying, when we begin understanding, when we reach a point of balance, maybe then the veil will lift. Not in a dramatic arrival, not in blinding lights or towering ships, but in something quieter. A message, a sign, a door opening. Or maybe they've already tried. Maybe the messages came long ago, in forms we didn't understand, in stories, in symbols, in whispers passed down as myth. Maybe they've stood just outside our reach, waiting for us to see what's been in front of us all along. Maybe the silence isn't empty. Maybe it's full, with patience, with observation, with possibility. But even if this is only a theory, there's something strangely comforting about it. The idea that we are not being ignored, but protected. That someone is watching, not as a threat, but as a guardian. That we are not forgotten, but remembered from afar. And maybe that's why we've always felt the pull of the stars. Why even as children, we look up and imagine someone else looking back. Maybe it's instinct. Maybe it's memory. Maybe it's the echo of a truth too large to hold in our hands. You don't need to believe it tonight. You don't need to decide if it's real. Just lie here, with your breath soft and your body still, and let the idea wrap around you like starlight. You are not on display. You are not in danger. You are becoming. And perhaps you are being quietly celebrated for that. Sleep now, under this imagined dome of stars. You are not alone in your dreaming. You are seen, and that is enough for tonight. Chapter 7. Maybe they've already been here. The ancient astronaut theory and the stories we tell. There's a thought, a quiet speculation that moves between history, myth, and the stars, that maybe we aren't still waiting for first contact. Maybe we already had it, long ago, before memory, before writing, before we had the words to explain what we saw. Some believe that beings from beyond our world may have visited Earth in our ancient past, not to conquer or colonize, but to observe, to shape, to share. They call it the ancient astronaut theory. Not proven, not widely accepted, but quietly, persistently, it lingers. Because scattered across the globe, there are stories, old stories, stories carved in stone and passed down in song. Stories of beings from the sky, of teachers, of messengers, of luminous visitors with strange tools and knowledge beyond the time they appeared in. The Dogon people of Mali, speak of a star system invisible to the naked eye, described in detail long before telescopes. The Sumerians drew star maps and gods descending from the heavens. The Nazca lines, etched in the deserts of Peru, stretch for miles, clear only from the air. And pyramids, ziggurats, monoliths. So many structures, heavy with precision and mystery. Are these the fingerprints of something more? Or are they simply echoes of our own imagination? An ancient hunger to connect with the divine dressed in the stars? We don't know. And that's okay. Because even if no ships came, even if the lights in the sky were only dreams or meteors or wonder, the stories remain. They speak to something deep in us. A longing not just to belong to this world, but to feel part of something bigger. Something universal. And isn't that what contact really is? Not lights or languages or landing gear, but a recognition, a shared gaze, a moment where two minds, no matter how different, know they are not alone. Maybe we've always sensed that we're being watched over. Maybe we are the descendants of ancient wonder. Maybe the spark of our curiosity is itself a kind of inheritance, a gift left behind. Or maybe the visitors haven't come yet, but we've already imagined them so fully, so richly, that in a way, they're already here, living in our stories, our art, our questions. It's possible that one day, long from now, someone will arrive. Someone will land, not in legend, but in light. And when they do, perhaps the stories we've told will prepare us. Not because they were accurate, but because they taught us to expect awe, to embrace the unknown. You, lying here tonight, are part of that long tradition. You are a storyteller, even in silence. A listener, a dreamer beneath the same sky as every poet, prophet, and child who ever looked up and wondered, is someone else out there? Whether they've come and gone, or are yet to arrive, or only exist in the quiet edges of our imagination, the truth is, the universe is richer because we've asked. So rest now, not with answers, but with the beauty of the question. You are not silly for believing in more. You are not naive for hoping. You are human, and humans have always looked up. Sleep now. Let the stars hold your stories. Let the silence carry your dreams. You are part of something ancient, and something ancient is listening. Chapter 8, The Loneliness of Intelligence. Why the first civilization might always feel alone. There's a strange truth that sits quietly inside the Fermi paradox. One that doesn't come with flashing lights or galaxy-spanning conspiracies. It's not exciting. It's not cinematic. But it might be the most honest answer we have. Maybe we're just the first. Imagine, for a moment, that the universe is not full, but young. That despite its size and age, its billions of galaxies, and its 13.8 billion years of time, it is only just now beginning to wake up. That consciousness is new here. That life, intelligent life, has only recently begun to appear, like the first firefly in a field just after sunset. Maybe the conditions have only just become right. Maybe the ingredients for civilization, stable stars, heavy elements, habitable planets, took longer to form than we imagined. For most of the universe's life, there were no metals, no carbon, no complex molecules, just hydrogen, helium, and time. Long, patient time. Maybe we are early arrivals at the dawn of awareness. The first to build radios, the first to launch satellites, the first to ask these questions out loud. If that's true, then the silence isn't ominous. It's natural. It's the quiet that comes before the choir begins, before other voices rise in other corners of the cosmos, sending out their own questions, their own signals. If we are first, then of course we haven't heard anyone. The universe is still stretching, yawning, blinking into wakefulness. And we are its first thought. But being first has a weight, a loneliness. It means looking out into the dark and hearing nothing back. Not because no one is listening, but because no one has learned to speak yet. It means launching golden records into space and not knowing if they'll ever be found. It means dreaming of neighbors who may not exist yet. And it means responsibility. Because if we are first, then what we do matters more. We become the authors of the universe's early chapters. The tone we set may echo through galaxies we'll never see. Our kindness, our curiosity, our care for one another, they become a signal stronger than any radio wave, a model for what intelligence can be. It's a humbling thought that we may be alone not forever, but just for now. That we are the first candle in a very large, very dark cathedral. And it is up to us to keep the flame alive until others arrive. But even in this possibility, this profound loneliness, there is something beautiful. Because here, on this one blue planet, life has found a way to ask the stars about themselves, to build telescopes, to write stories, to send whispers into the void and hope. And that hope is a kind of connection, all its own. So, as you lie here tonight, breathing softly, remember that your wondering is part of something sacred, something rare. You are not just a listener. You are part of the first voice, a note in the universe's opening song. Whether or not others are out there yet, you are already part of the cosmic story. You are its beginning. Sleep now, first dreamer. You carry the silence with grace, and somewhere, someday, another will listen back. Chapter 9, The Time Problem. Why the universe might be full of civilizations we'll never meet. There's a quiet trick that the universe plays on us. It's not malicious. It's not cruel. It's just the way things are. The trick is time. Deep, impossible, stretching time. Because even if the stars are close in the sky, bright points just a fingertip away, the truth is, they are very, very far. And not just in distance, in years. You see, when we look up at the stars, we're not seeing them as they are. We're seeing them as they were. Their light travels, slow and steady, across space to reach us. Some of the stars you see tonight might already be gone, burned out, collapsed, changed. But their light hasn't told us yet. It's still traveling, still on its way. Now, stretch that idea farther. Across galaxies, across the universe. Imagine a civilization not millions, but billions of years ahead of us. One that rose and fell while Earth was still lava and dust. One that built cities of crystal or thought or sound before we even knew what thought was. They might have scanned our solar system long ago and found nothing but barren rock. No plants, no oceans, no us. And they moved on. Or maybe their messages are on their way right now, sent a million years ago, just beginning to cross the quiet dark. Maybe the signal will arrive in 1,000 years, or 1,000,000. A pulse, a pattern, a whisper from a civilization long gone, speaking into a future they never got to see. Or maybe the opposite is true. Maybe life is just starting to bloom elsewhere. Maybe we're ahead of them. Maybe they'll receive our messages in 1,000,000,000 years, long after we're gone, and wonder the same thing we're wondering now. The time problem makes the Fermi paradox more tender than terrifying, because it doesn't say we're alone forever. It says we're scattered, not across space, but across eras. Ships passing not in the night, but across ages. Our lights missing each other not by inches, but by epochs. And it means that contact, if it ever happens, may not be a conversation. It may be archaeology, finding ruins of someone else's dreams. Or it may be inheritance, gifts sent through the dark for a future species to find. Tools, warnings, songs. It's hard sometimes to accept that we might never meet them, that the odds of two civilizations existing at the same time in the same part of space and reaching the right technology in sync are very small. But that doesn't make the question meaningless. If anything, it makes it sacred. Because even if we never touch, we still reach. And that reaching, that longing to connect across time, is an act of hope. Hope doesn't require an answer. It just requires the belief that something could answer. Someday. Somewhere. So lie back. Let time stretch around you like a blanket. Let the age of the stars comfort you. They've seen so much, and they will outlast even this moment of wondering. You are here now. A moment of awareness, flickering like candlelight between one age and the next. You are rare, and that rarity is beautiful. Sleep now, traveler between centuries. The stars are still sending their stories, and so are you. Even if the answer takes 1,000,000 years, you were brave enough to ask. Chapter 10. What if life looks nothing like us? The limits of imagination in a universe of possibilities. When we imagine aliens, life on other planets, we so often start with ourselves. We picture beings with heads, eyes, hands, voices, sometimes taller, sometimes stranger, sometimes shimmering or green or glowing, but still familiar, still shaped by the bodies we know, still bound by what makes sense to us. But what if that's the smallest part of what life can be? What if the universe has written other stories, ones we've never dreamed of? Here on Earth, life has taken astonishing forms. Jellyfish that glow in the dark, microbes that eat metal, insects that can survive in the vacuum of space. There are creatures with no brains that still know how to move. trees that talk to each other through underground webs, bacteria that thrive in boiling acid. Life, it seems, is not only clever, it is deeply creative. So what happens when we lift those limits? What if life elsewhere doesn't breathe air, doesn't drink water, doesn't even use DNA? What if it thinks not with neurons, but with magnetic fields, or light, or time itself? What if it doesn't move in the way we understand movement, but flickers between dimensions, or stretches across space as one continuous organism, too large for any single eye to see? It's not science fiction. It's just humility. Because we are one example, beautiful, improbable, and precious, but still just one. And the universe, in all its silence, may be singing in keys we've never learned to hear. We scan for patterns that mimic ours. We search for signs that resemble what we know. But what if they are speaking in spirals, in gravity, in pulses of quantum thought? Would we know, or would we miss them entirely? And still, there's something touching about that, because it means the universe might be even more alive than we think. Not empty, but unfamiliar. Not silent, but speaking in forms too subtle, too vast, too patient. Maybe that's why the search is so slow. Why the answers come not in shouts, but in questions. Because first, we must learn to see again. Not just with eyes, but with imagination. An imagination, like the cosmos, has no edge. So as you drift tonight, let go of the need to picture them clearly. Let your mind stretch beyond limbs and language and symmetry. Let it become soft, curious, wide. Somewhere, a form of life may be wondering what we look like and failing to imagine it. Because maybe the greatest truth about life is that it always surprises. It always creates more than we thought possible. And maybe, one day, it will surprise us again. Chapter 11. The Search Within. Why looking out might lead us in. We speak of the stars like they are separate, far, other, as if space is something we look at rather than something we live in. But Earth is not outside the universe. It is part of it. Every atom in your body was forged in stars. Every breath you take is woven from the same elements that drift between galaxies. You are not beneath the cosmos. You are inside it. So when we ask, are we alone? We are not just scanning the sky. We are also listening inward, to the quiet place inside ourselves where wonder lives. Because the search for other life is also a search for meaning, for connection, for a sense that we are not just accidents, spinning briefly in the dark, but part of something larger. And maybe, in looking out, we begin to see ourselves more clearly. We see how rare consciousness is, how delicate, how astonishing. We see how easily it could have gone another way, that we might never have become thinkers, dreamers, listeners. That intelligence might be less a rule of evolution and more a shimmering exception, a flicker that happened here, now, and nowhere else, yet. And that thought can feel lonely, or it can feel sacred, because it means that what we are doing matters. Asking, searching, wondering. It means we are not just floating, we are paying attention. And maybe that is what the universe needs most. Not noise, not answers. Just someone to bear witness, someone to marvel. Even the silence becomes different when it is shared. When two minds, even on opposite ends of space or time, wonder about the same thing. You do not need proof to feel part of that. The search is still young, but the question is old, and perhaps it is not meant to be answered with certainty, but with presence, with care, with the willingness to ask it again and again, as long as we are here. Let your breath rise and fall like waves against a shore. You are already part of the universe's echo. The search does not begin when we build a telescope. It begins when we open our hearts, when we listen. And in that listening, we are never truly alone. Chapter 12, The Great Silence, is the absence of a voice, its own kind of message. There's a stillness in space that goes beyond quiet. It's not the kind of silence you find in a room when the conversation ends. It's bigger, heavier, a silence with depth, stretching between stars and galaxies, stretching across light years of empty space, across billions of years of cosmic time. A silence that has lasted longer than anything we know. We call it the Great Silence, not as an accusation, not as proof of anything gone wrong, but as a name for something we've come to expect and still don't quite understand. Because we've been listening. We've aimed dishes at the sky, scanned thousands of stars, swept hundreds of radio frequencies. We've watched for strange flashes, unnatural rhythms, bursts of order hidden inside chaos. And though we've seen mystery, we haven't seen certainty. We haven't seen them. We haven't heard the voice we hoped for. And that silence begins to feel like part of the story. Is it empty or is it full? Maybe the silence is protection, like a species whispering through a forest, afraid to be overheard. Maybe the universe is full of life, but life that knows the risks of calling too loudly. Or maybe the silence is a test, a kind of cosmic riddle, waiting to see who will break it, who will understand what kind of voice belongs in a choir that hasn't yet begun. But what if the silence is something else? Not avoidance, not danger, just distance, just the natural delay between one candle lighting and the next. Maybe this moment, this quiet century, is the breath before the chorus begins. We forget sometimes how long the universe takes to move. Stars burn for billions of years. Planets drift through orbits as slow as glaciers. Signals cross space like echoes in a canyon the size of eternity. And we, the listeners, have only just arrived, only just built the ears to hear, only just begun to ask the question. So maybe the great silence is not empty. Maybe it's generous, spacious, a place made wide enough for all kinds of voices to someday rise. And in this moment, we are part of that space, holding the quiet, honoring it, preparing ourselves. Silence is not the absence of meaning. It's the room in which meaning is made. It's the pause in the music that makes the next note beautiful. It's the space between words that gives them shape. So tonight, let that silence hold you. Let it stretch out around your breath. You are not outside the song. You are part of its beginning. There is no failure in the quiet. There is only waiting and wonder. Chapter 13. The ocean beneath our feet. Life in the unseen corners of our own world. While we search the skies for life beyond Earth, there are still places here we haven't explored. Places right beneath our feet. Places hidden under miles of water and ice and rock. Places as alien as any distant moon. The deep ocean. Cold, dark, pressurized beyond imagination. The ocean floor is one of the least explored environments on our planet. And yet, life thrives there. Life that glows in the dark. Life that breathes metal. Life that has never seen the sun. Entire ecosystems growing around vents of boiling liquid, fed not by light but by heat and chemistry. They are not the life we expected, but they are here. And maybe that's the lesson. That life doesn't need to ask permission. It doesn't need comfort. It doesn't need light. It only needs a foothold, a spark, a place to grow. And when it finds one, it begins. So if life can exist there, in the deepest, strangest corners of our own Earth, why not elsewhere? Why not under the frozen crust of Europa, Jupiter's moon, where a salty ocean sloshes quietly beneath ice? Why not in the clouds of Venus, thick and acidic, but layered with complex molecules? Why not on exoplanets we haven't even named, with forms and elements we've never seen? We used to think life was rare, that it needed very specific conditions. But the more we look, the more we realize. Life is creative. It is surprising. It's not waiting for perfection. It's already adapting. And maybe that's what aliens look like. Not tall beings with glowing eyes, but microbes under ice. Strange worms in boiling lakes. Complex chemistry in forms we'd overlook. They might not send us messages. They might not have cities, but they are life, alive in the dark, whispering quietly that we are not the only ones. So perhaps the first answer to the Fermi paradox will not come from deep space, but from deep water, from our own oceans, from the soil of Mars, from samples carried home from distant moons. And when it comes, it will not shout, it will whisper. A single cell, a fossil, a structure too complex to explain. And in that whisper, we will hear something vast, not proof of intelligence, but proof of possibility. That life is not alone. Let that thought settle over you now, like pressure on the seafloor, like quiet, like calm. The universe is not empty. It's just mostly unexplored. And the search has only just begun. Chapter 14, Dreams of Contact. Why we keep imagining the first hello. We dream of meeting them, of first contact, not just because we crave excitement or storybook endings, but because the idea of someone else out there who knows what it's like to wonder, to build, to feel, feels like the deepest kind of hope. A hope not just for life, but for understanding. For something that looks back when we look out. We imagine ships descending through the clouds, sleek and impossible. We imagine messages decrypted from static, blinking out patterns that spell a shared mathematics. We imagine lights in the sky that move with purpose, creatures with voices like music, languages built on scent or gesture or thought. Some of us imagine warmth, others warning. But underneath it all is something even more ancient than science fiction: longing. Because deep down, we don't just want to know we're not alone in the universe. We want to know we're not alone in being. That somewhere else, consciousness has bloomed. That thought isn't just something Earth invented by accident. That others have loved, lost, asked questions, built cities, wept. Contact is more than communication. It's a mirror. It's the hope that someone else has wondered if they were alone and waited for us too. But contact doesn't have to be literal to be powerful. Maybe the first hello won't be a signal from the sky. Maybe it will be the moment we find microbial fossils on a distant moon, or detect an unusual chemical in an exoplanet's atmosphere. Or maybe it will be something more internal, a shift, a widening. Maybe the real contact happens within. When we start to see ourselves not just as humans, not just as nations or names, but as part of a species. A young, fragile, curious species living on a rare and tender planet held in the arms of something vast. Because that's what contact would require. Not just telescopes, but unity, maturity, readiness. We often wonder why no one has reached out. But maybe the question isn't why haven't they? Maybe it's, what would we say if they did? Would we speak with kindness, with caution, with humility? Would we recognize ourselves in their voice? Or would we talk over it, as we so often do, shouting louder than we listen? Maybe the waiting is part of the growing. Maybe the silence is the space in which we learn what kind of voice we wish to send back into the cosmos. And maybe that voice is you. Your questions, your wondering, your awe. So rest now, dreamer of stars. The contact you seek may already be happening. Not with aliens, but with yourself, with the universe, folding in toward you, listening. The first message might not be heard with ears, but with stillness, with readiness, with love. Chapter 15. Signals in the Static. The strange case of the wow, signal, and what it meant. In 1977, for just a little over a minute, something happened. A signal was detected by a radio telescope at Ohio State University. It came from deep space, from the constellation Sagittarius. It was narrowband, precise, structured, unlikely to be natural. And then, just as quickly as it came, it disappeared. The astronomer on duty, Jerry Eamon, circled the signal on the printout and wrote a single word in red ink. Wow. That's what we still call it, the wow signal. No one has ever heard it again. It didn't repeat. It didn't send a follow-up. It didn't include coordinates or content or intention. It came, it rang, and it was gone. Was it a glitch? A satellite? A reflection off something nearby? Many have tried to explain it, but none have succeeded. Not completely. And so it lingers, not as proof, but as possibility. We hold on to it, not because it answered the question, but because it reminded us how close the answer could be. Just 72 seconds long, and we're still talking about it decades later. That's how hungry we are for a sign. That's how ready. Sometimes, that's all it takes. A moment, a pattern in the noise, a whisper so unexpected it changes the room, even if no one else heard it. The wow. Signal reminds us that we don't know what's out there, that there may be brief moments, flickers, pulses, passing between stars, unnoticed. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was everything. Maybe that 1 minute was all a civilization could send before it fell silent. Or maybe it was the first try. A beacon, a test, a question waiting for a response we haven't yet learned to give. We've sent messages of our own, radio bursts, encoded greetings, instructions on how to find us. They travel outward every moment, joining the ever-expanding field of static and starlight. Some may overlap with distant ears. Most may drift forever. But we keep sending, and we keep listening. Because even if we never hear another wow, we know now that we could, that the silence might not be permanent, that somewhere in the static, something meaningful may still emerge. And if it does, we'll circle it and whisper wow again. You too are a listener. You too are part of the search. Every time you wonder, every time you pause to look up, your stillness becomes a receiver. Let the static settle. Let the noise fade. Sleep now, with your breath as the signal. You are listening, and that is already enough. Chapter 16. Reflections from the Mirror Planet. What if somewhere right now they're wondering about us? Somewhere out there, in a star system we haven't mapped yet, on a planet whose name we'll never pronounce, someone might be lying beneath their own sky. Not with stars like ours, not with a moon that pulls at oceans, but still a sky, still a home. Maybe they're breathing something we can't survive. Maybe their feet touch ground that glows or ripples or sings. Maybe they don't have feet at all. But maybe, just maybe, they're wondering. Not about us specifically, not about Earth, but about others. About what else might be out there beyond their reach. About minds they'll never meet. Maybe they've built their own telescopes. Maybe they've only just discovered fire. Maybe they built civilizations of silence. Or maybe they speak through color, or vibration, or memory. Whatever they are, if they're out there, maybe they're wondering the very same thing we are. Are we alone? The possibility that someone else is staring into their sky right now, dreaming about us without knowing we exist, is almost unbearably beautiful. It means the universe is not just filled with space, it's filled with echoes. Echoes of longing, echoes of thought, echoes of minds reaching out, unaware of each other, but still reaching. And it makes you wonder, how would they see us if they knew we were here? Would they imagine us as gods or animals, as machines or dancers? Would they dream of our cities, our oceans, our quiet forests? Would they imagine our art, our laughter, our tears? Would they understand the way we sing to the stars? The way we build monuments to memory and call it home? Maybe they'd misunderstand us completely. Picture our lives as something simpler or stranger. Maybe they'd be afraid. or hopeful. Maybe they'd build stories around the thought of us, the way we build stories around them. And maybe, in all that wondering, something would change. Not because they knew, but because they imagined. We don't need contact to be changed. We don't need confirmation to grow. Just thinking about them is enough to stretch the boundaries of who we are, to remind us that our experience is not the only possible one, that intelligence, beauty, pain, and joy might bloom in ways we'll never recognize. It teaches us humility, patience, awe. That's the mirror planet. Not a real place, perhaps, but a reflection, a gentle idea that somewhere another version of this moment is happening, that the universe contains not just matter, but minds, and that those minds may be as lost and searching as we are. So tonight, let your thoughts drift to that mirror planet, not as science, not as fiction, just as possibility. Let it rise in your imagination like a second moon. Let it shimmer with colors you've never seen. Let it be strange and peaceful and wondering. Not every story needs to end in discovery. Some stories are made of the waiting, of the silence, of the soft echo between two worlds that may never meet, but still reach for one another, just the same. Chapter 17. What if we're not ready yet, and why that's okay? When we think of first contact, of meeting other intelligent life, we imagine excitement, awe, maybe even a moment of unity. But contact is not just about them being out there. It's about us too, where we are, who we are, and whether we're truly ready. Because meeting another civilization wouldn't just change science. It would change everything. Our religions, our philosophies, our understanding of ourselves. It would shake the foundations of identity, of belonging, of what it means to be human. Are we ready for that? We still struggle to listen to each other here. We speak over one another, forget the past, repeat our mistakes. We divide over borders, over beliefs, over ideas we haven't fully explored. We are brilliant and deeply flawed. We hold beauty and contradiction in the same breath. And maybe that's what makes us human. But maybe it also means we need more time. More time to grow. More time to learn how to speak without fear, to listen without defensiveness, to wonder without control. Because contact, real contact, isn't about proving ourselves to others. It's about being honest with who we are. About meeting the unknown, not with a raised fist, but with an open hand, with humility, with readiness. What would we say if they arrived? Would we ask them for help, for knowledge, for meaning? Or would we tell them our story, share our music, our sorrows, our hopes? Would we argue among ourselves before deciding how to greet them? Would we try to dominate, to protect, to hide? These are questions worth sitting with, not because they suggest failure, but because they show how far we've come and how far we have left to go. Being ready doesn't mean being perfect. It means being willing. Willing to grow. Willing to change. Willing to step beyond the boundaries of fear and into something larger. Maybe the universe is waiting for that. Maybe it's not about proving we're smart enough. Maybe it's about showing we're kind enough, thoughtful enough, gentle enough to meet the unknown without needing to conquer it. Maybe the silence is space for us to become what we need to be. So let that idea rest beside you tonight, that you are part of a world still learning, still unfolding, still preparing for something it can't yet see. And that's not failure, that's becoming. Sleep now. There's no race. The stars are not impatient. They will wait. And so will the ones who might be watching. Chapter 18, The Distance Between Stars. Why even the closest neighbors may be out of reach. The nearest star to us, aside from our own, is Proxima Centauri. It sits just over 4 light years away. In cosmic terms, that's next door. But even that short distance is impossibly vast. If you were to drive there at highway speed, it would take over 50 million years. The fastest spacecraft we've ever built, Voyager 1, would take over 70,000, and that's to reach the closest star. The others, much, much farther. We often imagine space as a backdrop, a canvas dotted with stars like holes in a blanket. But really, space is emptiness. Massive, yawning, patient emptiness. It stretches between suns and planets like an ocean without waves. Not cold, not hot, just for all case, far. So far, it bends our understanding. And that distance changes things. Because even if there are civilizations out there, even if they're advanced, curious, kind, they may never reach us. We may never reach them, not because we lack the desire, but because the distances between us are not measured in miles, but in time. A signal sent today might take centuries to arrive. A reply might take centuries more. Conversations would stretch across lifetimes or end before they even began. Maybe there's a species on the other side of the galaxy who once sent out beacons, radio waves, light pulses, mathematical greetings. But they stopped. Maybe they fell silent before their message reached us. Maybe we'll receive it 1,000 years from now, long after their world has changed or ended. That's the strange, quiet tragedy of the cosmos. Even if it's full of voices, they may never overlap. Not because no one is speaking, but because no one can hear each other at the right moment. It makes you wonder what we'll leave behind. What signals will drift on after we're gone? What echoes of Earth, music, code, stray transmissions might one day reach another mind, and how would they interpret it? Would they understand the chaos and the beauty in our songs? Would they know that we loved, that we hurt, that we dreamed? We send these messages not because we expect a reply, but because it's who we are. We are beings who reach out, who write our names in the sky, even when no one is watching. And that in itself is a kind of hope, because distance doesn't erase connection. It just changes its shape. Maybe contact doesn't mean talking. Maybe it means understanding that across the stars, others might be trying too. Others might be dreaming. Others might be looking out from their own dark oceans, wondering what's out there. Let that idea settle over you now. That even if we never meet, even if we never speak, We are connected by something deeper than distance, longing. And longing, even across light years, is a kind of thread. Chapter 19. The Forest Dark. The theory that everyone is hiding and why it haunts us. There's a theory, one of the more unsettling ones. It says that the reason we haven't heard from anyone else is not because no one's out there. It's because everyone is hiding. It's called the dark forest theory. Imagine the universe as a vast, dark forest. Every civilization is a hunter, tiptoeing between the trees. Some have fire. Some have weapons. All are silent. Because, in this forest, you don't know if the other beings are friendly or dangerous. You don't know if they'll greet you or destroy you. So the safest thing is to stay quiet, to avoid attention, to never shout, to listen and survive. It's not a comforting idea, but it's a compelling one. If you were a young civilization, just learning how to send signals, wouldn't you hesitate? Wouldn't you wonder if you were drawing the wrong kind of attention? What if someone else heard your message and came not with answers, but with conquest? We know how that story plays out here on Earth. History is full of explorers meeting the unknown, and not always with kindness. Some wonder if that pattern repeats itself on larger scales. If civilizations that broadcast too loudly become targets. If staying hidden is not paranoia, but wisdom, it would explain the silence, not emptiness, not distance, just caution. And maybe that's what we're feeling now. The hush of a forest filled with intelligent life. Each of them waiting, listening, afraid to make the first move. It's a chilling thought, but also a strangely human one, because we understand fear. We understand survival. We know how hard it is to trust the unknown. But what if someone somewhere is brave enough to break the silence? Not recklessly, not to dominate, but to connect, to risk the danger of speaking, just to say, we are here. We mean no harm. We're looking for friends. What if that someone is us? Even in a dark forest, one voice can change everything. Maybe that's what Earth is. Not a threat, not a target, but a lighthouse. A single flame in the trees, flickering through the dark. Not screaming, just glowing. And maybe, just maybe, someone will see that light and come closer. Slowly, carefully, with curiosity. Because silence is safe. But connection is how the world changes. And maybe the forest isn't as dark as it seems. Maybe it's just waiting for someone to speak gently enough to be heard. You don't need to fear the silence tonight. You just need to rest in it. And trust that light, however small, always matters. Chapter 20. The Infinite Question. Why the search might never end. And why that's beautiful. There's something about this question. Are we alone? That refuses to go away. No matter how many centuries pass, no matter how far our technology advances, or how many signals we send, or how many stars we scan, it lingers, quietly, constantly, like a background hum behind all our other questions. We've asked it in so many ways, from so many places, painted on cave walls, whispered in telescopes, launched into space on golden records. It's the kind of question that lives not just in science, but in dreams, in bedtime stories, in lullabies, whispered under ancient skies. And maybe that's the point. Maybe this isn't a question we're meant to answer. Maybe it's one we're meant to carry, to pass down, from thinker to thinker, from age to age. A question as large and as old as the stars themselves. The kind of question that shapes civilizations. The kind that defines what kind of species we are. Because even if the answer is never found, even if we never hear another voice, never catch another signal, never stumble across another city carved in alien stone, the question will still have done its work. It will have led us to look up. And looking up, that changes everything. It's easy to forget how rare that is. That on this one small planet, life didn't just survive. It woke up. It became aware. It asked questions. It created poetry and mathematics and music and radio telescopes. It built machines that could fly to other worlds. It wondered if its own loneliness was universal. We are not just a species. We are a moment. A brief flicker of consciousness in a long, dark stretch of time. And we use that moment to reach out, to send our stories into space, to say we were here. That is the power of the search. It's not just about finding someone else. It's about becoming more fully ourselves in the process. More curious, more humble, more kind. It's about recognizing that in a universe as wide and wild as this, our little planet matters not because it's big or powerful, but because it asks. The asking is the miracle. And yes, maybe we'll find life one day. Maybe it will be microbes under Martian rock, or strange plants in the oceans of Europa, or city lights blinking on the dark side of a far-off planet. Or maybe it will be minds like ours, curious, gentle, dreaming. But maybe we won't. Maybe this is a question with no answer, or at least not yet. And that's okay, because the search itself is sacred. It's the thread that ties us to the future, to all the dreamers who will come after us, to every child who will look up at the night sky and feel a tug in their chest they don't yet have words for. The tug of possibility. Maybe one day, far from now, the question will be answered. Maybe a signal will be received. Maybe a face will be seen. Maybe the silence will end, or maybe not. But either way, we will have left something behind. A trail of wonder, a history of hope, a signal, not just to others, but to ourselves. A reminder that once we reached, once we believed. And even now, you are part of that. You lying here with your thoughts soft and drifting are part of the infinite question. You, what the stars have become, not just dust and light, but listening. You are not small. You are vast, because you are capable of asking something so wide it cannot fit in a lifetime. The search may never end, but maybe that's what makes it beautiful. Not the finding, but the looking. Sleep now, fellow traveler. You are already part of the answer, and the stars are already part of you. Chapter 21. The maps we send to the stars. What we choose to say about ourselves. When we first dared to speak into the void, we had to decide what to say. How do you introduce an entire planet to the unknown? How do you condense the noise and wonder and heartbreak of humanity into something small enough to fit on a disc, a wave, a whisper? In 1977, we launched Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 into space. Each spacecraft carried a golden record, literally etched in gold, a kind of interstellar greeting card, just in case someone, somewhere, someday might find it. Carved onto that record were sounds of Earth, music from Bach and Beethoven and Chuck Berry, greetings in dozens of languages, crickets chirping, a heartbeat, a baby crying, the sound of a kiss, pictures of mountains and cities, trees and laughter, diagrams of human anatomy, mathematical constants, and our place in the stars. And encoded in it all, hope. Hope that whoever finds it, if anyone ever does, will understand something essential about us. Not just that we exist, but that we care, that we love, that we listen, that we wonder. The golden record is not perfect. It's not a complete portrait of our world. How could it be? But it's honest, it's generous, it's a time capsule of our better nature. A gift launched not in expectation, but in humility. Like leaving a note in a bottle, floating it into a cosmic ocean, knowing you may never see it again. And yet, we did it. Not because we had to, but because we could. Because somewhere deep inside, we believed that the story of Earth was worth telling. That if anyone ever found it, we wanted them to know that we were here and that we tried. Since then, we've sent other messages. Radio signals beamed at distant stars. Pulses encoded with prime numbers and chemical maps. Newer spacecraft with etched plates and symbolic drawings. Always trying, always guessing. Always wondering how to translate human experience into a language someone else might understand. But in all of it, there's a pattern. We don't just send facts. We send feeling. We send music, art, signs of connection. Because we understand, perhaps instinctively, that intelligence is not enough. That what defines us is not our tools or our speed, but our softness. What we choose to say about ourselves when we think no one is listening is beautiful. And maybe that's what makes the golden record so profound. Not that aliens might find it, but that we made it at all. That we sat down and asked, what matters? And then sent that answer into the stars. Even now, those spacecraft are still drifting beyond the edge of the solar system, into the deep dark. Their signals grow fainter, their power weaker, but the records remain. Frozen in silence, still spinning, still carrying us outward. So tonight, imagine them, tiny ships, alone in the cosmic dark, carrying our message, our voice, our breath. They may never be found, but they exist. They are real, and they are us. And you are part of that story, because the message of Earth isn't just on golden records. It's in you, your wonder, your questions, your listening. Sleep now. Somewhere, your voice has already left the planet, and it's still moving forward. Chapter 22. Night Beneath Alien Skies. What it might feel like to live somewhere else. close your eyes for a moment. Let your thoughts loosen, soften, drift. Now imagine you're standing on a planet that isn't Earth. Not a violent or terrifying world, but a quiet one, safe, ancient, distant. The air might be thick with unfamiliar scents. The gravity may press more gently against your bones. The ground beneath your feet might hum faintly like something alive. And above you, a sky filled with unfamiliar stars. Maybe there are 2 moons, or none. Maybe there's a ringed giant rising over the horizon. Maybe the clouds are green, or gold, or shimmer with color like oil on water. But what you feel, more than anything, is wonder. Because even in an alien world, there is still night, still quiet, still breath. And maybe, just maybe, there's someone on that world standing beneath their sky, too. Not human, not like us, but still present, still wondering, still listening. This is the part of the search that no equation can capture, the imagination, the human capacity to step outside itself and dream, to imagine lives we've never lived, to walk through possible futures in worlds we've never touched. That might sound like fiction, but it's a kind of truth, because every discovery begins with a question, and every question begins with a dream. We don't just search for life to collect data. We search to connect, to understand, to know what it might feel like to look up at a different sky and still feel awe, to sit in a home made of unfamiliar shapes, surrounded by strange air, and still feel something like peace. Maybe those worlds exist. Maybe they're waiting for us. Or maybe they're already alive with thought and silence and time. We can't know yet. But what we can do is imagine. And sometimes that's the most powerful thing we have. Because in imagining alien lives, we remember what it means to be alive ourselves. We remember that home is not just a place, it's a feeling. And that feeling might exist anywhere there is thought, memory, rest. So imagine now, as you lie still, 1,000 alien nights, 1,000 other skies, quiet cities made of crystal and cloud, forests that pulse with bioluminescent light, beings curled into sleep, not so different from you, wondering what might be out there. The stars above them are the same stars above you, the same ancient light, the same dark sea. And perhaps, in your sleep, you'll walk there, not to visit, but to remember something deep and true. That the longing to belong is not just Earth's story. It might be everybody's. Sleep now. Let the stars above Earth become the stars above another place. Let your breath be shared across skies. Let your dreaming carry you where science can't reach, not to escape this world, but to feel the beauty of imagining another. Chapter 23. The Waiting Civilizations. What if they came long before we could answer back? Imagine a civilization far older than ours, not by centuries, but by millions of years. A species that evolved, built, and reached the stars long before we scraped symbols into stone, long before our ancestors stood upright, long before Earth, as we know it, even had flowers. They might have built machines that crossed the galaxy like ships on quiet tides. They might have sent out signals so subtle, so patient, they washed past us before we even knew how to listen. Maybe they placed markers in the fabric of space itself, like driftwood left on cosmic shores, waiting to be found. Or maybe they came here, not with conquest, not with sound, but quietly, observing, watching. A species so advanced that interacting with us would be like trying to explain the internet to a flame. They would have seen us, if they came, in our earliest forms, hunched, shivering, clutching fire and fear. And maybe they left, not out of indifference, but reverence. Maybe they understood something we haven't yet, that intelligence isn't just about knowledge, it's about timing. That the universe gives each civilization its moment, and that sometimes the wisest thing to do is wait. Because here's the truth. Time moves differently at a cosmic scale. What feels like ancient history to us, our pyramids, our empires, our revolutions, would be a blink to a civilization 10 million years older. We might be living in the shadow of their long-departed curiosity. Their messages may have passed through our skies when we were still fish crawling toward land. And that possibility is strangely humbling. It means that we are not alone in our silence. We are surrounded by the ghosts of waiting, by civilizations that may have spoken into the dark as we do now, and then faded, not into failure, but into something else, something quieter. And maybe, if any of them are still watching, they are not waiting for proof of our intelligence, or our speed, or our strength. Maybe they're waiting to see if we listen, because that's what changes everything. Not the ability to speak, but the willingness to hear. The patience to wait for a message we don't yet understand. That is the heart of contact. Not reaching faster, but waiting longer. So tonight, let the waiting comfort you. Not as loneliness, but as legacy. You are part of a species still learning to hear, still learning to see. And that in itself is beautiful. Sleep now, listener. The messages may already be here. All we need is time. Chapter 24. Intelligence beyond recognition. Could the universe be thinking without us knowing it? We tend to picture intelligence in familiar forms. Tools, machines, cities, language. But what if the universe is already full of intelligence that simply doesn't look like ours? Not humanoid, not even biological, but vast, hidden, integrated into the structure of reality itself. Some scientists and philosophers have started asking an unsettling question. Could the universe itself be conscious? Could stars be thoughts? Could galaxies be memory? Could black holes be eyes turned inward? It sounds like poetry. But so many of our deepest truths once sounded like that. Think of an ant walking across a book. It doesn't know it's on a story. It doesn't understand the words, or the meaning, or the shape of the thing it moves across. But the story is still there, written beneath it, unseen. Maybe we're like that. Maybe the universe is the book, and we are too small, too new to understand the language it's written in. If that's true, then alien intelligence may not come in ships or signals. It may be here already, all around us, breathing through the magnetic fields of stars, pulsing in the quiet rhythm of planets, embedded in physics the way code is embedded in machines. Or maybe it isn't one intelligence, but many. Life, not as isolated beings, but as systems, networks, great minds that stretch across nebulae. Sentience built not on survival, but on being. We wouldn't recognize it. We might not even notice. Just as fish don't notice the water, we might not see the thoughts we swim through. And yet, what if the sense of wonder we feel when we look up is part of it? What if awe is the signal? What if the longing to understand is the first thread of connection? Because to feel awe is to remember that we are small and to love that smallness. It is to feel humbled, not by fear, but by beauty. And that is a form of wisdom. A quiet intelligence that doesn't need answers to feel meaning. Tonight, you are not just stardust. You are part of a question the stars are still asking. You are part of something thinking, breathing, becoming. Rest now, awareness in the dark. The universe is not silent. It is speaking softly, and you are learning to hear. Chapter 25, The Last Listener. If we are alone, what does that make us? There's a version of the answer no one wants to say out loud, not because it's dramatic, but because it's so quiet it hurts. It's the answer that says, maybe we are alone. Not just in this galaxy, not just for now, but truly, cosmically, entirely alone. Maybe life is rare, not just complex life, but any life. Maybe the conditions that made Earth possible, the right star, the right distance, the right moon, the right collision, the right oceans, the right balance of chaos and calm, were a kind of miracle. A cosmic coincidence that won't happen again. Or won't happen often. Not in ways that let life rise from stone, from spark, from sea. And maybe intelligence is even rarer. Maybe minds like ours, minds that ask, that wonder, that build radio telescopes just to listen into the dark, are rarer still. Maybe the great silence isn't a pause. Maybe it's the natural state of things. And Earth, this one shimmering world, is the only place the universe ever tried something different. If that's true, then the weight of what we are becomes almost unbearable. Because we are not just life, not just intelligence. We are witnesses, the only ones, the only voice in a dark cathedral of silence, the only beings who see the stars not as lights, but as questions. We are the universe, folded into thought. And we are the only ones here to know it.
And yes, that is lonely, but it's also extraordinary.
Because if we are the only ones, then every act of kindness matters more. Every poem, every dream, every child's question about the sky, it all becomes part of the only story the cosmos has ever told. If we are alone, then we are not small. We are vast because we hold all the meaning. We are the ones who turn dust into song. We are the ones who give silence a name. We are the first and maybe the last listeners. And maybe that's not a tragedy. Maybe that's a gift. It means we are not just alive. We are responsible for life, for beauty, for wonder, for keeping the lights on in a universe that might never try again. So sleep now, not in fear, but in reverence. You are not lost in the stars. You are the stars, listening to themselves for the first and only time. Chapter 26, The Gentle Answer. What if the question is the point? There's a kind of question that doesn't need an answer. Not because it's unimportant, but because the asking is already enough. The question, are we alone, might be that kind of question. One meant not to be solved, but to be held. A compass, not a destination. Because in asking, we remember we're not the center. We remember the size of things. We remember to be quiet sometimes, to be humble, to be curious. And maybe that's all the universe ever wanted. Not applause, not discovery, but someone to notice, someone to wonder. Because when we wonder, we soften, we grow. We look at our world differently. We treat each other more gently. Because we realize that even if this planet is just one among trillions, it's the only one where we've ever laughed, or wept, or whispered into the night. That kind of awareness changes things. It changes how we love, how we build, how we forgive. Maybe aliens aren't listening. Maybe there are no ships, no signals, no cities on distant planets waiting for our reply. But maybe that's okay. Because in preparing to meet someone else, we became better at meeting ourselves. We cleaned up our home. We learned to speak truth. We reached beyond our fears and imagined something more. That's what the question does. It elevates us. Even if the sky stays silent forever, the question will have been worth it. So tonight, don't rush toward answers. Let them wait. Tonight, you are the question. You are the wondering. You are what happens when a universe asks itself, what else could there be? And in that asking, something beautiful was born. You. Sleep now, last chapter of Stardust. The stars are quiet, but they are listening. Chapter 27, A Universe That Waits, How Time Itself Might Be the Answer. There's something quietly overwhelming about the time scale of the cosmos. Stars live for billions of years. Galaxies drift for eons. Even light takes its time, walking across the sky at a pace that feels fast until you understand how far it has to go. And here we are, on this little blue world, only a few 100,000 years into our journey as humans. A species that only just began to look up, only just began to build tools, to form questions, to write, to listen. And already, we are asking if we are alone. Maybe the answer hasn't come yet, not because it doesn't exist, but because the timing isn't right. Maybe the universe is patient in a way we don't know how to be. Maybe it's still waiting for the right moment. Maybe the signal was sent long ago and is still on its way. Or maybe it hasn't been sent yet at all. Maybe the beings who will speak to us haven't even evolved yet. Imagine that. That we're not waiting for a civilization to reveal itself, but waiting for it to be born. That across the dark sea of stars, in some distant spiral arm of some unnamed galaxy, molecules are just now learning to dance. That life is beginning again, soft and slow. That consciousness is taking its first breath. And in 1 billion years, when our species is a story remembered in stone, or starlight, or not at all, they will be the ones to ask, "Are we alone?" And maybe they'll hear us then. Or maybe they won't, but they'll wonder. And in that wondering, we'll still exist. Because maybe this question is timeless. Not in the way that makes it frustrating, but in the way that makes it sacred. A thread that weaves through civilizations we'll never meet. Across time, we'll never live to see. A question passed like a torch, from one mind to the next, each of us holding it for a while, adding to it, keeping it warm. That's how the universe speaks. Not in moments, but in centuries. In light that travels for ages to reach a single eye. In questions that echo long after the ones who asked them are gone. So maybe you don't need to wait for the answer in your lifetime. Maybe you just need to carry the flame, to listen, to care, to wonder. Because in that act, you're already participating in something eternal. You are not early. You are not late. You are right on time. So rest now, time traveler. You are exactly where you need to be, held in the long breath of a waiting universe. Chapter 28, The Language of Wonder. Even without contact, we are already speaking. There's a language we speak that doesn't need translation. It isn't built from nouns or verbs. It can't be spoken aloud. It moves in gestures, in curiosity, in silence. It's the language of wonder. When we look up at the stars and feel our breath catch, that is wonder. When we imagine lives we'll never meet, that is wonder. When we teach a child the names of constellations, not because the stars need names, but because it makes the night feel like home, that is wonder too. And maybe that's the first true contact. Not between planets, not between ships, but between minds and mystery. Between one moment of awareness and the vastness that holds it. Because wonder is a form of connection. It doesn't need answers. It only needs presence. And presence is powerful. It's easy to forget in all our searching that what we're doing is already a kind of conversation. Every time we send a signal, or scan a frequency, or build a probe, or write a story about alien life, we're saying to the universe, we're here, we're paying attention, we're open. And the universe answers, not with certainty, but with scale. With stars that form and collapse. With light that bends. With silence that isn't empty, but full of everything we haven't understood yet. That is how the universe speaks. Through beauty, through wonder, through a kind of quiet that feels more like listening than absence. Maybe aliens speak with math. Maybe with light. Maybe they don't speak at all. But maybe, just maybe, they wonder too. And if they do, then we've already said hello. So sleep now, speaker of wonder. You don't need to know the words. The sky understands. Chapter 29, The Star in the Mirror. Why searching the cosmos teaches us about ourselves. There's a moment, quiet and small, that happens in the dark. Maybe you felt it. You're looking up, not with your eyes, but with your awareness. The stars are still. The night is soft, and something inside you feels suddenly bigger and smaller at the same time. You're not just a person in a room. You're part of a mystery, a question, a gaze. That moment is what the entire search for life beyond Earth is really about. Not answers, not proof, but reflection. Because to ask, "Are we alone?" is to look at our own existence like it's something precious enough to compare. To wonder if we are unique, or if we are part of something larger. It's an act of humility, and it's also an act of love. When we send telescopes into orbit, when we launch probes past the edges of our solar system, when we beam out songs and greetings and numbers into the stars, we're not just looking outward, we're looking inward. We're asking, what are we? What matters to us? What will we be remembered for? And the answers are never easy, but they are always meaningful. Because even if we find nothing, no ships, no signals, no signs of life among the galaxies, we will have discovered something else. Ourselves, our fears, our hopes, our capacity for patience, for awe, for wonder. The star in the mirror is not a real star. It's a metaphor, a reminder that every time we look out, we're also seeing a little bit of who we are. That in our longing for connection, we reveal the best parts of ourselves, our creativity, our curiosity, our courage to ask the impossible. And isn't that enough? Even if we are alone, we have built beautiful things from that loneliness. Telescopes that dance with light, records made of gold, stories that cross cultures and generations, paintings of what other beings might look like, songs for the dark. We've turned silence into something sacred, into a canvas, into a mirror. So tonight, as your breath slows and the sky settles above your imagination, know this: you are not just watching the stars. They are watching you back. Not because they have eyes, but because you gave them meaning. You are the mirror. You are the light. You are the question, and the one brave enough to ask it. Sleep now, gentle traveler. You've seen yourself in the stars tonight, and they have never looked more alive. The shape of a question. You've made it here, to the softest edge of the story, to a place not filled with answers, but with something better, possibility. Tonight, we followed the long thread of wonder, through galaxies and silence, through theories and dreams, and arrived not at a conclusion, but at a kind of peace. Because the question, are we alone in the universe, isn't just about aliens or signals or stars. It's about us. It's about our capacity to wonder, to stretch, to imagine life beyond what we can see, and still choose to listen. And maybe that's what makes us special. Whether or not we're alone, that we ask, that we care, that we whisper into the dark. Not because we're afraid, but because we believe someone might hear. So, as you drift now into sleep, or thought, or stillness, carry this question with you, gently, not as a burden, but as a friend Because sometimes the shape of a question is more beautiful than the answer. And sometimes the answer is the asking itself. Good night, stargazer. You are not alone, because you are here. And that is a miracle in itself, a quiet farewell to the stars we wonder about. You've followed the question this far, through galaxies you've never seen, through long silences that echo more loudly than any voice, through the flicker of signals, the memory of golden records, the math of curiosity, the myth of contact. And now, here you are, at the edge of the story, where the light fades gently into thought. This is not the end of anything. This is a soft place to rest inside the wondering. Because what you've been doing tonight and every night you've ever looked up is more than dreaming. It's participating. You've been part of something shared, a tradition older than science, older than language, the quiet tradition of asking, "Are we alone?" It's such a small sentence, so few words, but it holds galaxies inside it. It holds the hush of every child who ever stared at the sky and felt their chest expand. It holds the silence of every astronomer who scanned a frequency and waited. It holds the paintings of alien life made on cave walls, the prayers whispered to constellations, the stories told to comfort or explain or simply imagine. It holds you. Because asking this question requires more than intelligence. It requires tenderness. To look out into the vast, ancient dark and still believe there could be something there, someone there, is an act of extraordinary softness. It is hope in its quietest form. And if that's all we ever get, just the asking, then maybe that's enough. But maybe it's not all. Maybe the act of asking sends ripples out in ways we cannot trace. Maybe every signal we send, every whisper into the cosmos, bends space just a little. Maybe someone, somewhere, feels it, feels a soft tug in their own awareness. The sense that they, too, are being asked about, that they, too, are not alone in wondering. And maybe that's what the question is. Not a cry for help, not a demand, but a gentle reaching, a hand extended across time, a breath shared with the unknown. Are we alone? It's possible that we are. That this planet, this brief blue moment in cosmic time, is the only place the universe ever became conscious of itself. That we are not just alone, but first or last, or only. But then again, maybe not. Maybe life flickers everywhere, quietly. Maybe it hides beneath icy oceans. Maybe it grows in clouds made of acid. Maybe it thinks at speeds we can't imagine, or on scales we can't perceive. Maybe intelligence blooms differently each time. Maybe we've already heard from it and didn't understand. Or maybe we are it. The part of the universe that wonders what else it could be. You, lying there, listening now, you are proof that the cosmos can listen. That the universe can look up at itself and ask, who else is out there? That's no small thing. That's a miracle hiding in plain sight. And even if we never meet another voice, another mind, another hand reaching back, we will still have changed the silence. Because the silence was never just empty. It was waiting. Waiting for someone like you to notice it, to speak softly into it, to ask. And now, The silence holds your voice, your breath, your listening. It carries your wonder like a lantern. So what do we do with that? Maybe we become better caretakers of this place. Maybe we treasure each moment more. Maybe we speak more kindly, build more gently, love more fiercely. Because if this is the only world where meaning lives, if we are the rare bloom in all this space, then let us bloom well. Let us be good ancestors. Let us send out stories worth finding. Let us be the question others remember. And if we are not alone, if there are others somewhere listening, then let them hear in our silence not fear, but reverence. Let them hear in our waiting not desperation, but devotion. Let them know that we wondered, not to escape this world, but to cherish it more. Tonight, the stars are still where they've always been, unreachable, silent, and full. And you are here, breathing, softly, steadily, a quiet awareness glowing inside a body made of stardust. You do not need answers tonight. You only need rest, because the question is still unfolding, and you are part of it. Sleep now, gentle listener. The stars are still singing, and the universe remembers that you asked. And even if your eyes are closed now, even if your breath has slowed and your thoughts have drifted towards sleep, the story continues. The question doesn't stop when you rest. It moves with you through the soft current of dreaming, through the quiet chambers of your heart, where awe still flickers like a candle, through the distant spirals of galaxies that will spin long after we are gone. There's something deeply human about needing to know, about needing to understand what we are, where we are, whether anyone else is out there wondering the same thing. But there's something just as powerful about not knowing and choosing to keep going anyway. About living in the unknown without needing to conquer it. About letting the mystery be part of the beauty. Because this life, this earth, this moment is already incredible. Think of the odds. Think of the fragile balance that allows you to lie here now, warm and safe, while stars burn millions of miles away, while planets spin in darkness, while the universe expands in all directions, and still makes room for your breath, your wondering. Even if we never meet another civilization, even if the golden records drift forever without an answer, even if our signals fall silent and our questions echo unanswered, we were here. We loved. We listened. We asked. And that made it all worthwhile. Maybe one day, far from now, someone will find our questions carved into metal or floating through static. Maybe they'll hear our greetings, our music, our stories, and maybe they'll smile, if they smile at all. Maybe they'll understand that we weren't perfect, but we were trying. That we were brave enough to wonder, gentle enough to ask. Or maybe they won't find us at all. And maybe that's okay, too, because what we sent wasn't for them alone. It was for us. A reminder that even in the quietest corner of a vast and ancient universe, a small world dared to dream beyond itself. A world that learned to look outward, not to escape, but to connect. A world that asked questions, not because it was empty, but because it was full. And you are part of that world. You, with your soft breath and open heart. You, with your questions that have no answers yet. You, with your courage to wonder in the dark. So rest now. Let the silence wrap around you like a blanket made of starlight. Let your breath move like a quiet tide beneath the moons of faraway planets. Let your sleep carry you beyond language, beyond maps, beyond even memory. You are not lost. You are not small. You are exactly where you belong. Because sometimes the universe doesn't answer in words. It answers in stillness, in beauty, in the long, slow unfolding of light. And you, gentle listener, quiet traveler, flicker of stardust, you are part of that unfolding. So let go, drift, dream. The question will be here when you wake, and the stars will still be singing. Good night. You are not alone. You never were. There is a moment just before deep sleep, a liminal hush between thought and dreaming, where the mind is no longer trying to understand, but simply floating. That's where you are now. You've walked gently through the dark forest of the universe, past the great silence, through the questions humanity has carried like a lantern for generations. And now, at the edge of all that wondering, there is only stillness. Not the stillness of nothing, the stillness of everything. The kind of stillness that lives beneath galaxies, the kind that holds the first breath of a world, the kind that remains after the last signal fades into background radiation. It's in that stillness that we hear ourselves most clearly. And it's there, in this soft place beyond answers, that we remember something quiet and true, that this story, the one we've been telling tonight, never needed to end. Because the story was never really about aliens, or ships, or signals. It was about you. About the fact that something in you dared to ask, dared to wonder, dared to hold space for something that might never come, and love the question anyway. That is what makes you part of this story, not as an observer, but as a participant. As someone who knows that the real message we've been sending out into the dark was never for someone else to find. It was for us. A golden record etched with songs and breath and laughter and longing. A quiet reminder to ourselves that this life, this fragile, fleeting, extraordinary experience, was worth noticing, worth sharing, worth whispering about to the stars. And so here we are, not at the end, but in the middle of the longest breath the universe has ever taken. The breath between the asking and the answering. The breath between what is and what might be. And in that breath, you are held. You don't have to know what comes next. You don't have to find another chapter, or follow another signal, or fill in all the blanks. You only have to rest, because the question is big enough to carry you, and soft enough to let you sleep. Somewhere, light is still traveling from stars that died before Earth was born. Somewhere, a signal we haven't yet learned how to detect is crossing a cold stretch of space, slower than thought. Somewhere, another being may one day open a record and hear the heartbeat of a planet that dared to dream. But here, now, There is only you, your breath, your body, your quiet mind, and that's enough. You are enough. No matter what the universe holds, no matter how many galaxies remain silent or singing, your presence here matters. Because in you, the cosmos is not empty. It is awake. So close your eyes, if they haven't already closed. Let the stars slip softly behind your eyelids. Let the gravity of sleep pull you gently inward. You are safe. You are seen. You are starlight remembering itself. And in the darkness between the galaxies, the question you carry will keep glowing, slow, soft, and eternal. Sleep now. The universe is vast, but so are you.